Welcome back, everybody, to the next episode of 0 and 2 Heroes. I know this is crazy. We went 9 months without an episode, and now you're getting 2 episodes within a month of each other. That's right. We are back full time. You're going to be getting way more of 0 and 2 Heroes, so look forward to that. And we have a very special episode today. I don't want to say we have a returning guest because this is his first time on this show, but he's been on another show that we have. I've been on his show a few times, so if you've listened around, I'm sure you already know him. But please welcome to the show,
Cypher003, aka Jesse, aka You Get It.
AKA You Get It. Jesse, Cypher003, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you, Mikey, for once again having me on your litany, your catalog, your diorama of podcasts. I'm really appreciative of being invited back on because we get to have a theme where we're playing a game against each other. We had previously thought about, hey, there's this cool game that's going around that, this Rushdown Revolt or whatever it was. And then they said, just kidding, we're actually going to pull this back from the public. So there will be no O2 Heroes of Rushdown Revolt, I think the game was. It's all good. We found a new game. And I'm excited about Naruto, so that's something for all of you to be teased on. It's going to be a Naruto fighting game. Naruto fighting? What, Naruto Storm? No, it's a fan modification of a game that was released in 2005. I can't help it. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a big fan of Melee, so when it comes to 2001 and 2005 games that have been fan modified enough to make it more accessible and more modern, I'm a big fan. You can miss me with Tekken 8 or with I think it's Street Fighter 6 that's coming out in a few months. Yeah, you can mess me with all that. I don't care. I truly do not. I'm all about especially Melee, but I've recently gotten back into this game that I randomly had as a kid, or my cousin had as a kid, that I would go to his house and play. It's exciting to get back into it. It's exciting to be on here, Mikey. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy you're able to come on. Like you said, we originally were going to do Rushdown Revolt, which was a free fighting game, and then they took it off of the public servers and it's no longer free. So we're like, oh man, we need something else to do. And then you found, I believe this is Super Clash of the Ninjas 4, which is the fan mod that made some balance patches and made the game more fun overall. It's a Naruto fighting game. But before we start talking about the mods and the community and all that, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did your gaming journey start? Do you remember what your first game was, or what your first fighting game was?
The first fighting game was definitely Super Smash Bros. 64, but the first game that I think I ever played was probably the Flash game called Spank the Monkey. You play super chill music, not lo-fi, because lo-fi wasn't a thing, and this would have been barely the year 2000. But I remember Spank the Monkey because that was a game I remember playing at my house before we moved at the age of 6. So I remember playing that. And the other game that I remember playing, and I thought, wow, I'm doing something and the TV is responding to me, was Mario Kart 64. So
nice.
Those were the 3 games that I knew that those were among the first games that I ever played. And Spank the Monkey was easy, by the way. You just click and drag the hand, and you drag it across a balloon blow up of a monkey. It's not facing its butt towards you or anything. You're just hitting it. And then if you hit it fast enough by moving your hand and the mouse and the drag the cursor fast enough, it'll play Good Times, where it just goes, it just lays down a nice little beat. It'll say, wow, you spanked the monkey at 200 miles per hour, and then restart the game again. You play it all in 10 seconds. The game is done in less than 10 seconds, unless you want to do it again and again.
It's wild how far games have come, where this was a Flash game where you literally just, you have a severed hand, or just like, you have a disembodied hand. That sounds a little less grotesque.
Yes.
You have a disembodied hand, and you're just smacking this monkey around. And now we're playing not one, but multiple fan mods of fighting games from the 2000s. So you mentioned previously that you play a fan mod of Melee, and I know you host a Melee podcast. So go ahead. I know all about that show, but how about you tell some of my listeners that might not be as aware? Hype yourself up. Tell me about your show.
Well, on a scale of Brandon to Bobby Big Balls, I'm probably closer to Brandon in terms of hyping myself up. But I host Bottom of the Smash Mountain podcast. It is where I invite community members on to talk about the game. We might talk about current events. We might, well, we do, but we especially talk about that person's journey within the community. And if it's someone who's like Brandon, aka Homemade Waffles, who is on our Mount Rushmore of community
Mhm,
members, or just
mhm.
straight up people involved in Melee, period, because he has done so much for Melee and the scene. But I don't always have people like Homemade Waffles onto the podcast. In fact, more often I have on people who might go 0-2 at a tournament or who barely
Mm,
even play the game at all, but are interested in following along the scene anyway
mhm.
because they like to TO for their community, or they like to do art, they like to do the music, they like to do fan games of themselves that they either make or help
Mhm.
make. I've had a couple of people on who were, no, at least one person on who participated in the Project M development team, the
Oh,
original
wow.
PMDT. So that's cool, right? You get to have an opportunity to talk to people who said, Brawl was not really like Melee, but we kind of wanted to put some Melee stuff in. And, one thing led to another. And now we're just making an entirely new thing called PM. Super cool, right? It's really fun to be able to have those opportunities to speak to people about how they journey through the game because there are threads that are entirely unique to a person sometimes where I'll go, I've never ever heard about this. Please tell me more. And then other times where it's like, oh, you were there too, or oh, you got to watch that. I had somebody on who I knew that Marco, aka Oates, aka
Mhm.
the head editor organizer of the major zine. I knew that Marco had been involved in the community for a really long time, but he just casually mentions watching being in the room when AMSA beat Mewtwo King in a set for the first time back in 2014, I think it
At
was. It
at
was a
a Kings of Cali 4? Is that
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And was literally sitting next to Mewtwo King as it happened. And was cheering for both of them. So whenever Amsa would do something cool, you could see Marco freaking out and next to Mewtwo King, who's just trying to keep it together. But he would freak out for Mewtwo King as well. I'm not saying that he was deliberately trying to sabotage. He was kind of trying to hype up both of them. But
Yeah,
of
that's
course,
an exciting match. Yeah, hype it up.
yes,
It's just fun to watch. Doesn't matter who wins. That's a great game.
it was a really fun match to watch. Even now going back and for me watching it and seeing Marco there, it's just someone as being part of the history of the game. So
Uh-huh.
I guess the overall message or the overall thesis statement of my podcast is everyone has contributed to the canvas of Melee and the community. I want to hear what that is. And sure, some people have told me, oh, I haven't really done much. And I go, if you like this game, if you follow along, if you participate in any way, you actually have added more than you think you have. And
Mhm.
we kind of discover that together.
And I absolutely I'm not just saying this because you're on my show, but I absolutely love your podcast. It's so much fun because okay, so for our listeners at home, if you don't know what the words Mewtwo King, Oats, Kings of Cali, or Amsa mean, don't worry. We nerded out for a quick second, but I love that your podcast, instead of interviewing the three biggest names in the game who wins thousands of dollars and like everybody knows their name, this is like a really personal interview series of like the smaller people who might not get the recognition. And I laugh about this all the time. I literally told Hannah when I had lunch with her today. She said, "Oh, who are you podcasting with?" I'm like, "Oh, Jesse, Smash Mountain." She's like, "I don't know what that means." I'm like, "Oh, he's the guy that before he had me on the show, 4 weeks prior, he had MK Leo on, the greatest Smash Ultimate player of all time." She's like, "Oh yeah, isn't he really sweet?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's the one." But I think it's so cool that one guest might be. I know you've had. Have you had Amsa on, or were you trying to get him on through the bracket?
No, I did have Amsa
Yeah,
on. Yeah.
and like you will have like amazing, like big name, and for lack of a better term, like professional esports players who are like sponsored and they make money, and then literally a month later, you'll have me on the show, and at this point, I wasn't involved in Smash for like 4 years removed. I used to run events in a basement of a comic shop years ago, and you're like, doesn't matter. You had an impact on the community. You like affected people in a good way. Come on and tell your story. And like I'm literally a nobody. People just know me as like a Discord user at this point. I don't even go to tournaments anymore. But you were like, you were important to this game at some point, and I want to celebrate that. And I think that's so cool.
I really appreciate you saying that. In the spirit of calling it bottom in the Smash Mountain, I had someone, Johnny Gumball, is a
Mhm.
PGH Pittsburgh, for those of you who don't call Pittsburgh PGH, TO, who asked me recently, are we going to call it middle of the Smash Mountain? You know, you've almost done 250 episodes, you've had on a lot of cool people, and you're kind of getting better at the game. As I was getting four-stocked by Corey, a South New Jersey Dr. Mario player at Short Hops, a recent tournament hosted by Gene Dalla. You get it. But when I was asked that question, I said, no, I still call it bottom of the Smash Mountain. And I wouldn't think of changing it because I want the mindset for me to remain the same, where I'm just as excited to talk to someone who, like I said, is not the most well-known or relevant person, but still participates within the scene. It is cool. I recently had on Pew Pew U after
Mhm.
he lost his job at CLG. That's cool. It's great to be able to have a conversation with. Actually, that was Kevin's third time on the podcast. He really
Yeah.
likes me for some reason, but we'll have that happen. That's great. But then I almost even better in my mind than being able to quote unquote have opportunities to be clouded and goaded or whatever is the opportunity for someone like Candy Cane Jane Bean to tell her story. And if you, and of course anyone who's listening doesn't know who Jane is, but she's someone who participates regularly in the melee scene, and part of her journey of continuing to become the person that she is involved by being around melee and participating in melee in whatever capacity. So it's fun to check out my podcast for that reason, to have the not the pure underdog vibes, but
Mhm.
you'll have more feelings of going, wow, I feel like I'm getting to know someone,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
the only thing that we possibly have in common is the game, but that's enough to tie us together.
Yeah, and I think it's great, and, like, I've recommended your show to people who don't play Melee. It's just like, "Hey, here is a great interview podcast." If you're passionate about video games, he interviews people who are also passionate about video games, and like, it's phenomenal. It's a great show. I'm gonna probably gonna sing your praises a few more times this episode, but, so I'm gonna get to Naruto in 1 minute. I have one last question for you. Did you try the new Smash Bros. Beer at Short Hops? And if so, how was it?
So I don't drink alcohol, but
Oh,
I
you know what?
got a four pack.
I knew that, and as soon as I asked that, I'm like, he doesn't drink. He's the wrong person to ask. I knew
But
that.
I got a four pack, so I'm trying to figure out how to. Well, what I want to do is to have somebody else drink it, but please gently, so I can keep the cans as a souvenir. But I thought it'd be so wasteful to pour it down. It's a mango flavored IPA, I
Is it
think.
really?
Yes, I believe it's a mango flavored IPA. So it's going to be good for somebody. So
So funny.
I'm going to a couple of tournaments this upcoming weekend. I'm going to the last Millersville University tournament that Sean, aka Whiplash, will ever host. And then he
Okay.
graduates Millersville. So congratulations to him. It'll be the last tournament that he ever hosts there as a student. So go there, support Sean. So Sean's old enough to drink. Maybe I well no, because we're on university grounds. So what we'll probably do is be like, Sean, are you going to go to the garage, which is this upcoming Saturday? That's a house tournament and a garage tournament, and there will certainly be alcohol a flowing. So maybe I give it to Sean there as like a thank you for all of your
Yeah.
amazing tournaments that you've run at Millersville all this time. I know it's not money and I know it's not much, but you drink this and then give me the cans back or I will kill you.
Okay, that's wonderful. I remember I want to go to Short Hops, which for listeners, again, I apologize. We're both Melee nerds. We're nerding out about it. But there's a brewery in Pennsylvania that started a new Smash Brothers inspired beer, and they had a release party where they threw a Smash Brothers tournament to commemorate it. And Jesse was able to go, but I wasn't able to make it. But Oh, okay, cool. I
It will
just
be at Creed 2, which I know you are attending.
the beard's gonna be a Creed.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm so excited. I will be there. I already signed up. First time I'm entering a melee tournament in over a year. I downloaded Slippy again last week, so I've been playing some. I like to think I'm really good at this game because I'll get like a nice combo. It's like, oh man, I'm sick nasty with the sticks. I'm so good at this game, and I'll just like run into getting four stocked. So my hope for Creed 2, not to do super well. I just don't want to go own 2.
Despite the fact that you host the show called O2 Heroes, it's fine. They're gonna have the mango flavored beer.
That's okay, perfect. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take the train in. I'm gonna get some mango flavored beer and we can hang out. But yeah, so bringing it back to 0 and 2 Heroes, I have I have yet to win a single game on my podcast. Every game we've played for the podcast, I've either lost or, funny enough, last episode ended in a draw. It ended in a tie, but I've yet to win. And I'm hoping this episode's going to be different. I'm hoping I'm going to score a victory on this one. Um, but we're playing Naruto Super Clash of the Ninjas 4 today, which was your pick. So how about you tell us a little bit about this game and like why you picked it?
So once upon a time, Tomy, I believe, is the studio that developed the first four Clash of Ninja games. Almost all of them are Japan exclusive releases. One of them, I believe, was ported over to the Wii and slightly changed around. A couple added characters or taken away characters. I know that
Hmm.
one of the ports or one of the later 2008 era releases of Naruto fighting games was kind of scuffed. But Clash of Ninja 4 was only ever a Japan release. It was released in 2005, and it plays like Tekken as far as I understand. I'm not a big fighting game person aside from Smash, but when I watch Tekken gameplay and then I play Naruto Clash of Ninja 4, it plays similarly. My cousin had a GameCube that had a switch on the back that could go back and forth between NTSC-U or
Oh.
NTSC-J, and he had Clash of Ninja 4. So, the artwork on the front and the back, it's all in
Mhm.
Japanese, but you put it into the GameCube and you flick the switch to NTSCJ and the game loads perfectly. So we would play it at his house. And as a youngin, I would just only mash buttons and
Mhm.
I just wasn't super goated with the sticks. But as an older person now, I'm trying to pick up the game a little bit again because you know how this happens, Mikey. You're
Mhm.
you're minding your own business. You're doing your own thing, and all of a sudden, again, the worm of the brain comes up with. Remember that Naruto game you played as a kid 10 plus years ago? And I was like, okay, I guess I'm looking this up now. It took me forever to find it because I knew it was Japan only release. That was the only clue that I had. But it turns out there was more than one game that was Japan only release of that Naruto fighting game series. So it took me a while, but I found it. And not only that, I found, oh my gosh, it was at Combo Breaker 2022, because
Mhm.
this is 2023. There was that Combo Breaker. There's people still playing this game. And oh my gosh, it plays a little differently. Oh my gosh, there's a community of people who are modifying this game to get rid of infinites, to balance the characters so that they're more even, and to make it a sustainable, viable, competitive
Mhm.
fighting game for whoever wants to play it. Now, I don't know their relationship with the developer. Let's assume Tomy probably would say, you're modifying our game? That's kind of cringe. Let's assume it's like that, but it was at Combo Breaker. So that also means that there was enough community support to get them to Combo Breaker last year. I watched the grand finals. That was super fun looking. And then they're going to be returning again at Combo Breaker 2023 here at the end of May. So the Discord, I'm not really super participant in it other than saying, hi, I'm new here and I'm playing it again. Wow, such a cool memory from my childhood. But everyone's super jazzed up
Mhm.
for Combo Breaker in the Discord. There are online tournaments that happen at least once or twice a week. And as you and I found out, online play is not seamless like it is for
Yeah.
Slippy and Melee, but we're going to have it figured out when we're ready to go against each other. There will be no tying because even if you can't knock me out, because
Mhm.
again, it's health bars, pseudo 3D. Well, it is more 3D than
Yeah,
Melee.
yeah.
And you have to, someone has to win. So there will be no
Mhm.
tying at the very least, Mikey.
So Little bit behind the scenes. At the time of recording this episode, the Tekken episode hasn't come out yet, so you haven't seen this. But when we did Tekken and went to Game 5, and we kicked each other at the same time and lost the same amount of health at the same time, and we got a double KO screen, which I've literally never seen before. So it's not even like it went to time. We just were both equally matched. But I joked in that episode that Tekken 3 was the first time on the show we didn't play an obscure fighting game from someone's childhood. I'd argue Tekken 3 was the only like well-known fighting game that we did. And I was hoping to continue the trend of like, oh, maybe we'll do like a Street Fighter or Marvel versus Capcom. And here you come with a Japanese exclusive video game that you don't even have. Your cousin had that he needed a Switch in the back of his GameCube to use. And now we're using a fan mod to make it English and balance patched, and it's a Discord community. I'm so excited. I love this. I never would have found this game if not for you.
So there was always more time, always more Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom
Yeah.
players. That has a lot of time in the sun. A lot
Mhm.
of these games that you'll see at Evo later this year. Good for them. But what about the true essence of gaming when you actually have to make an effort to play the dang thing? And for retro enthusiasts, we all know the struggle. If it's not being touted and marketed heavily by the developer, the publisher, they just drop it like it's hot. They don't care about the game anymore as soon as they're on to the next thing. And there are a lot of people in this world who are perfectly content to buy the latest, to have the greatest, to be able to say, hey, look, it's so shiny and it plays so great and I'm really good at it already and I'm better than everyone else. Like that's kind of how I perceive, not exclusively, but I know that a lot of people who played Brawl moved on to Smash 4, moved on
Mhm.
to Ultimate. But with each of those generations are also kids who have no idea that 2006 was a real year that people really actually did live in, because some of these kids who are 13 years old were born in the year 2010, Mikey. So we're older than that. We've lived back in those days, back in those times, and we have games from our childhood that might be a little bit harder to get to. But once we get to them, it's the feel of the game, it's the look of the game, it's the mechanics of the game. Because I feel like we can all agree that certain mechanics get nerfed or dropped
Mhm.
entirely because it's quote unquote too hard to do, or the game's a little bit difficult to get into. The skill floor is too
Mhm.
high, and then the skill ceiling is even higher. This game is annoying. Naruto Clash Super Clash of Ninja 4 is very hard to string together more than just basic combos. I've watched a couple of videos on YouTube and I'm trying to copy what the player is doing, and so far I can't do it because I'm just really bad at the game. But as soon as I can get some of these combos that are more complicated strung together, I'm gonna feel so serotonin heavy. I'm just going to collapse of happiness. So I look forward to, it's the same thing with Melee. Once you get good with Melee, which I haven't, but I can do a couple of advanced techniques, you start to feel like, oh my gosh, this feels amazing. That's how you
Mhm.
feel. So I kind of view this game in the same light. There are some similarities at the very least.
Yeah, just like that's part of the reasons why I love this podcast is because people come up with these amazing stories of like, oh, I used to play at my cousin's house, or like my mom bought this for me on my 5th birthday, and I grew up with it, and it's really cool because I'm like discovering these games that I've never even heard of. I never would have played before, and I played a little bit of this game earlier today with you, and just like it's a lot of fun. I'm excited to like dig into it and get good, and just like I have spent so much of my life playing a children's party game in different comic book shop basements, and the game was released over 2 decades ago, so I totally get what it's like to be like, "This is a game I grew up with, I'm never dropping it," you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm looking here and, like, I'm good to go unless there's anything else, that you wanna bring up that you wanna address. I figured, we'll head into the break, and then when we come back, we'll talk more about the game.
Yes, indeed. I think something that you can tease is I will record it for myself and put it somewhere on the internet of our matches. So you can, at least for those of you who have previously said, "Hey, Mikey, O2 Heroes, super cool. Is there a chance we can see the gameplay?" Now, maybe it's not always possible, and maybe you can just appreciate the fact that the
Mhm.
moment happened and you can't be there to witness it, and that's okay. But this time, I think for myself, I at the very least want to record, see how I play the game from the third eye perspective once
Mhm.
we're done. So it'll be somewhere on the internet eventually. I think it's just go on my YouTube channel, honestly.
I th-
Hey, I normally
yeah.
do Smash podcasts, but here's a Naruto game match if you want to watch that.
I super appreciate you recording it on your end. So I recorded the footage of the first 2 episodes we did, but the last episode that came out, the Tekken episode, we had some tech issues, and I didn't end up recording any of that because of the tech issue. So like, no one can go back and watch the Tekken game. But I'm gonna try and record it on my end, and maybe if that doesn't work, you still have it recorded on your end. So regardless of what happens, folks, there is going to be video footage of this out there. You don't have to worry about it. Even if I mess it up again, Jesse's got me covered.
That's right. You have something to look forward to. But otherwise, we're going to play it according to tournament rules.
Mhm.
So it's basically a best 3 out of 5, kind of standard stuff that you might come across if you're a video game fighting enthusiast. Best 3 out of 5, always the format, always the move,
Yeah.
unless you do show matches, but we'll just do best 3 out of 5. And when we have a winner, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how fun the game is to play, and we're going to go from there. Mikey, good luck, have fun, all that stuff.
I you're such a sweet competitor. Good luck, have fun. I love that spirit of competition. Thank you. And
Talk nice, play mean.
talk. Oh, I'm gonna start using that. I like that. Talk nice, play mean. And listeners at home, stick around for a quick ad break, and then when we come right back, we'll have more Naruto Super Clash of the Ninjas 4.
I like to creep around my home and act like a goblin. I don't know why, but I just enjoy doing this. Maybe it's my way of dealing with stress or something, but I just do it about once every week. Generally, I'll carry around a sack and creep around in a sort of crouch walking position, making goblin noises. Then I'll walk around my house and pick up various different trinkets and put them in my bag while saying stuff like, "I'll be having that," and laughing maniacally in my goblin voice. Trinkets can include anything from tish I find on the ground to cutlery or other utensils. The other day, I was talking with my neighbors, and they mentioned hearing weird noises, like what I wrote about, and I was just internally screaming the entire conversation. I'm 99% sure they don't know it's me, but gosh, that 1% chance is seriously weighing on my mind.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that ad about goblins. I hope you don't have to deal with goblins in your day-to-day life. But if you do have to worry about goblins and you need a little bit of a pick-me-up, feel free to go check out the YouTube video of the match we just played. I'm going to spoiler it real quick. Jesse absolutely destroyed me. We did a 3 out of 5. I didn't win a single game. He's so good at
Wait,
this game.
wait. You
Yes.
got within one of those games, you did get 1 point.
Oh, did I? Okay, I thought
Yes.
I didn't get any. Okay.
You got a point.
Okay. So I won 1 round out of 3 out of 10. So I have a 10% success rate in this game.
No, you have good fundies, and you were putting together your combos nicely, and you had great dodges. I think what is challenging for a lot of fighting games is the person who approaches first allows the other person to react from there. And when you are not entirely sure how to deal with the person you're playing against, their gimmicks and then their timing, it's kind of tough because you're going, well, I could just kind of bob and weave and wait for them to attack me first. But if you don't know how to use your character 100%, or if you don't know how they're going to approach you, because the game does nuance down to a level where, and this happened a few times while we were playing, you probably didn't notice, but I tried to hit you, but you did a sweeping leg kick, you would do that just in neutral. I'm not talking about your sweeping leg kick from getting up. I'm talking about in neutral. You would do that and you would duck underneath my punch and hit me. So there are like nuances and gets a little bit deeper the further you go along. But since I've been when we decided to do this, I started practicing combos, and I swear, when I tell you it took me 45 minutes to do my first actual combo, I'm not lying when I'm telling you that it took me 45 minutes. I have the recording to prove it. It was so beyond frustrating to try to figure out the timing, but then to your point, once you figure it out, it starts to feel like a game that you're actually playing instead of going, this makes no sense. So it's been super fun to kind of understand that for the first time. When I played it as a kid, I just mashing B. I don't really know what dodging or substituting is. So I'm just going, why do I keep losing? And because my cousins, they all know how to dodge. They know how to substitute jutsu. So I was very happy with how the games went, but I could understand from your perspective going, should have caught Jesse before he practiced this freaking game too much.
So I was going into it, and like I knew my combo game wasn't going to be very strong. So I was trying to focus on a more defensive game. I was trying to do a lot of like the 3D side steps, trying to go like above or below you, so I missed the punch. I was trying to do a lot of the subjutsu you were talking about. I also tried to do, I don't know what the move's called, but the character I was playing as, my down A shoots out like a spider web that keeps you stuck, and it also gives a little bit of distance. You get stuck at the end of the spider web, and I was trying to do that to try and keep some distance, and then maybe I can like do a very basic combo. I didn't have any of the fancy combos that you had, but the character I played as, I have his name here, I played as Hiromaru most of the games, and he's essentially Spider-Man, and I'm a big Spider-Man fan, so I thought that was really cool. I'm just like swinging around with no ceiling, no cave. I don't know what I'm swinging from. I'm just shooting the clouds and swinging by. But
it doesn't matter. When your character enters the game to enter the fight, you come down from the clouds in this particular map that we played. For Naruto fans, Final Valley, there's a waterfall. It's beautiful little. The music's cool, but yeah, when you're coming onto the screen, coming down from a non-existent ceiling or cave ceiling, super fun. And I'm playing as Naruto. I'm a basic boy, and even though Naruto, for the enthusiasts out there who would look up a tier list, is not a top tier character, I think the basic combos, some of the more advanced ones, are really fun once you learn them. So I like other characters in this game, but I think I connect with Naruto the most. And then this is not the same across the entire cast. Some characters don't have this elevated stage of like using their chakra to sort of do like a power up during a point, but I have that ability as Naruto. I mean, Kakashi has that, and Sasuke, Rock Lee, Might Guy, the characters like that have this ability to sort of like power up by using chakra, and then their supers become powered up and their movesets change a little bit. So that's fun as well, just to have like that little layer to kind of surprise people with. Maybe not necessarily the OGs of the community, but it's cool because it changes your moveset slightly. So it does feel like, not that you're playing a brand new character or anything. Consider it like Fox and Falco from Melee. What if you were playing Falco and all of a sudden you could power up into Fox? Switch it up during a stock. That'd be really fun.
That's a really fun way to describe it. That's really good. I don't know if you remember this. I forget who it was, but there was a Melee modder who made a mod of the game that every time you down bead as one of the spacies, it changed you to the other spacey. So you could do combos switching back and forth from both of them every time you pulled out a shine, which I thought was really funny.
That is really cool. I don't know that mod at all, actually, so I'll have to look that up.
But so you mentioned the tier list, and I wanted you to know I'm not ignoring you. When I was on my phone, I was pulling up the tier list. I'm not an impolite host. But so I was looking at this, and this has, despite being a mod, we mentioned the first segment, it has a fairly dedicated competitive fan base. There's a big tournament happening at the end of this month at Combo Breaker, which I'm going to watch because I'm now aware of this game and it seems a lot of fun. And it doesn't look like there's any bad characters. It looks like it's like S, A, B, and C tier. So there's no like
Yeah.
F or like really bad ones. But
Right.
I picked someone in the worst tier, and then you picked Naruto, who's in the second worst tier. And you picked Naruto just because you like Naruto. I picked my guy because he looks like Spider-Man. But normally, just because I'm playing for such a short amount of time, I only have like 2 or 3 weeks to practice this. I'll try and play as like one of the best characters in the game, but I have no attachment to any of these characters. I was going through it, and I was just like, huh, they're just not fun to play as. I like swinging around as Spider-Man, so I'm going to stick with that.
That's
But
exactly right. You got to connect to your character.
And I, I don't know a lot of Naruto. I'm looking at this list. I can't even tell you any of the top tiers. I think I can tell you 4 Naruto characters, and they're all like the kids that were introduced in the first 2 episodes of the show that I watched a decade and a half ago when it first came out on like Fox Kids or whatever.
No,
So
it totally makes sense. I've only been learning some of the names of the other characters, but just because of repeat exposure.
mhm,
But one of my secondaries, or one of the other characters I enjoy playing as, 2 of them are in the S tier. So
nice.
I can kind of feel the difference, but it's because of specific moves or special moves that
Yeah.
those characters have in the S tier that allows them to cover more options. So there's a character named Tamari, and her gimmick is having this ginormous fan. And I'm not talking, oh, it's a cutesy little fan that's like 12 inches big. This fan is literally like a guitar case made of metal that she can hit you with. And she can cause air waves that are both projectiles. And then she can cover substitution jutsus. If she hits you and you try to substitute behind her to either attack her or just to simply substitute behind her, she can use her fan to like cause not a shockwave, but just an air wave that will catch substitutions, which is
Oh, wow.
dummy busted because
Yes.
if you could cover that option, what are you supposed to do defensively other than block? And if you keep doing that, then she can open you up by grabbing you or breaking your shield and so on, breaking your block because you can break the block if you hit it enough times. Anyway, that would be one reason why she's in the S tier. She can
S tier,
cover substitutes
Yes, it
pretty
sounds like
easily.
it.
I watched a grand finals from Combo Breaker 2022,
Mhm.
and the person who won used Tamari, and yeah, covering the substitutions with that, I thought, okay, well now I understand why she's up there. I don't know all the reasons why. The person who's like rated as the absolute best, that's the character who controls the puppet. So you're essentially fighting against 2 characters.
Okay.
And if you try to use a super on him, he can put the puppet in front of himself and you'll hit the puppet instead, which does no damage to him.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
you're doing your super on the puppet instead, and that's not great because you're using all of your chakra to do that. It does no damage to your opponent. The only thing that it does is take some of his chakra, but please, I mean, I think most of us will trade chakra for not getting hit by a super.
Yes. Yes, most definitely. And that's like one of the things that I liked about this. I think like there's a lot of characters in this game. I'm looking at it now, and there's maybe close to 30 characters, give or take. And at least the handful that I played as, they all felt like unique and had their own style. Like at one game, 2 games I played as Spider-Man, and one of them I played as this character. I don't know if it's Karasu or Karasu. I don't know where the accent goes in a Japanese name. I'm sorry. Maybe Rick can go ahead and correct me because I know he's studying Japanese. But he's just like a straight up puppet, and just he had strings coming out of his body, again going to nowhere, going up to the clouds, and he's just like zipping around with like flailing arms because he's a puppet, and just like he was fun to play. He's just like an oddball character. It's like, yeah, you know what? This is quirky, but I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying it.
It was super tricky to figure out the
Yeah.
first couple of points because I'm going, I keep getting a hit, but then the puppet ignores me hitting it and hits me back. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I
But
was
also
just
very
yeah.
frustrating.
I was just standing there tanking a couple. Like, I guess there's like an issue with like hit stun with that character, where just like you hit one of my dead arms and not a real arm. So like you hit me, it doesn't affect me. I just wah, wah, and I just come out of nowhere and get you. But
Yeah.
now, outside of this game, are you a Naruto fan?
No, my siblings are though. So when they're playing with me, my sister Juliet and my brother Blake, they're playing with me and they're going, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is so cool. Oh, but this is not accurate to the anime." So most of the time they're going, "Oh, this is cool. This is cool." That's not accurate. This
Oh,
is
but it's
cool. This is
wrong.
cool. So it seemed like they kind of aimed for like 85% accuracy and took a
That's
few
pretty good.
liberties. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So normally I ask the guest if they were in charge of the roster, if you had to add a character, who would you add? And I always make the stipulation, if it doesn't have to be a character, it can be like a play style. If you want someone to fight a certain way, and seeing as how you aren't super familiar with Naruto, you might take one of those options. But imagine you were in charge of this mod and you got to add someone to it. Do you have any idea of who you would add?
Probably a character from the later on part of the anime because this only
Oh.
covers the first couple hundred episodes. I mean, this goes as far as the
I'm
uh,
sorry, first couple hundred how many episodes are there? The couple
almost a
hundred.
thousand.
There's 1,000 episodes of Naruto?
Unfortunately, yes. There's a lot of filler episodes. There's a lot of recap episodes. There's a reason why I haven't watched the show. It took my brother and sister months to go through that, and it's not because they were going like one episode a week necessarily.
Mhm.
They burn through 5 or whatever at a time, once a week maybe, but at that pace, you still can't get through the series very fast.
Yeah.
So when Michael B. Jordan was asked about, oh, what are some good starter animes, he named One Piece, which has a bajillion episodes, Naruto, which has a bajillion episodes, Dragon Ball Z, which has a bajillion episodes. The only one that he named that I would consider an actual beginner
Mhm.
anime, starter anime, is Hunter x Hunter, because I don't think that's more than 150 episodes, and it moves along at a pretty good pace. There are some slow parts, but the true best beginner anime, in my opinion, is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, because
Yes.
that's like 63 episodes.
Yeah. I'm looking at it now. I'm not much of an anime person. I'm aware of some of it. I watched all of Full Metal Alchemist except the last season. I have to get back to it. But that's also my go-to just because it's not too obscure. It's kind of mainstream. It's a little bit of everything. It's only 60 episodes, so you can like get through that. I have it here. Naruto is a total of 720 episodes. One Piece is 1,061 episodes. I would never recommend either of those as a starter anime. Oh, you want to check out the genre? Here's 1,000 episode show to check out. Go watch Full Metal or like Neon Genesis it gets a little weird. It might not be for everyone, but that's like 22 episodes and a movie. You can do that like in a few weeks. Go check that out.
And that's if you play this game and you are not a Naruto fan, you will find, oh, this is just a fun game to play.
Mhm.
Because that's me. Because I've watched probably only 50 episodes. I tapped out after that, and that's me. So if you are me kind of a person, you'll
Mhm.
just find, oh, I like the look of this character. Oh, and they're really fun to play. And there's almost 40 characters, by the way. So there's a lot of different varieties and styles that you can play as. I mean, if I were to do anything to change this game significantly, I would probably have the characters be even more unique within themselves to the anime, whatever that may be. I
Mhm.
don't know
Okay.
how Naruto gets more unique because he uses a lot of substitution jutsu. That's his thing,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't know for other characters how specifically, but that would be the only thing I would say is make the characters even more unique because there's a certain, I don't want to say like universal stuff. It's not quite all one to one. Every character feels the same because we've been establishing that it's
Mhm.
not. But I think if they went for even more uniqueness, that would be just fine in my eyes. I think that there are certain rules that all the characters do try to follow to a certain
Mhm.
extent before they start to branch out into what makes them unique. I mean, their startup for the super are pretty much the same across the entire cast, and that'd be
Mhm.
cool for supers to be initiated differently or to have half supers. I mean, there's different ways to think
Yeah.
about it, but it is cool because there's There are characters who can charge up into a powered up state by using chakra instead of using a super right away. There are other characters who can take away your opponent's chakra by
Oh,
hitting
that's
them.
cool.
Yeah, with certain attacks. So there are differences. So I am saying there are differences, but I'd say maybe like throw a little bit more sauce on top, and that would probably make me even happier. But playing the game, it feels different when I play with different people. So
Mhm.
I'm happy enough with that because it's the same way with Melee. When you play
Yeah.
Melee with somebody versus another person, you're playing not a completely different game, but you have to vastly change up
Yeah.
what you're doing from someone who mains Peach versus someone who mains Falco or Marth or Falcon. So it changes a lot. When you play this game, when you play the Naruto game, I played against Juliet and Blake. I played against you, and each person feels really really different to play
Mhm.
versus, and they're different characters. My brother found the cheapest character in the game who can just substitute behind you for free instead of using chakra to do it, which I think
Oh.
is super dumb, but that's the character that he picked, and it really forces me to get better at avoiding attacks from behind.
Oh,
So
I would have used that character if I knew that was a thing. I was trying to substitute jutsu all over the place. That's my whole game plan.
So overall, it's been fun to get back into this game, and I will hope to catch Combo Breaker live because I think for the Naruto Super Clash of Ninja 4 community, for the Scan 4 community, Combo Breaker is their biggest tournament. This is their
Mhm.
Super Bowl for
Yeah.
sports fans out there. This is where most or all of the community will show up, and they get crossover from other FGC players. Other FGC players will enter the brackets sometimes as well. I think the one player that was in grand finals last year, I think, was someone who doesn't necessarily play this game all the time, and the other person who did win was like a regular Naruto player, or somebody was in top 8 that was not necessarily a Naruto player, but if you play
Player from
Tekken
another game. Yeah.
or if you play Soul Calibur, this game feels very similar. You are on a 3D plane. You do move about, but you are majority focusing on your opponent like it's more of a 2D. So in the way that Smash is 2.5D, I would
Mhm.
describe this as a 2.7D. It is pretty much 3D, but it's not as if you can go left and right fluidly off of the, what is it, the Z axis, or is it the X axis that I'm referencing?
The Z axis.
Yeah, to move along the X plane. That's not necessarily a fluid thing. You mostly just go towards your opponent or you
Mhm.
go away from your opponent. You can sidestep, but that's pretty much it. The gameplay around the walls are interesting because you can't fly off the level like in Smash, so you can
Yeah.
essentially corner somebody. That creates some really fun situations, and overall, yeah, like I said, really fun game.
Yeah, that's also a distinction from Soul Calibur, and I think Tekken, maybe not Tekken, but definitely Soul Calibur, where like in Soul Calibur, you can get like a ring out. So just like similar to Smash, you win the round if you can force your opponent off the stage. That like counts as like as a loss for them. But they don't have that. There's an invisible wall, so you just get stuck in the corner and you have to either get out or just take the combo and just deal with it afterwards, which is I I think it would be interesting with the ring out, but I also think that would like vastly change the game of, and maybe I think like me swinging in with my Spider-Man swing and just like kicking you, I feel like that would be a big move to just get you off the edge. And I feel like that could be like detrimental. It could be cheap, like in a few ways. But I like the fact that because you're stuck on the circle, it forces you to get out of the corner, similar to like other traditional fighting games.
I think there are certain moves that are just supposed to launch you across the stage. That's their
Mhm.
mechanic. They're not moves that keep you close to the opponent. They're supposed to literally launch you. And if you're next to a wall, you kind of just float there, getting
Yeah.
quote unquote launched, but that allows you to follow up with a combo. Whereas if you're not cornered, you get a chance to get a respite.
Yeah. But so I say this every episode, but it's true every episode. I had so much more fun playing against you, playing with an actual person, than I did just beating up computers like in practice mode. So I had a lot of fun playing this, and it's definitely something I'm going to keep an eye out for Combo Breaker. I'm going to I normally tune into like a couple games of Combo Breaker, but I'm gonna try and watch a lot of it. I'm interested in getting into more traditional fighting games outside of Smash. And Combo Breaker's great because they have like 20 tournaments going on, and then they have like
And then all the
30
community
they
tournaments
have
that they
like
have. Yeah.
30 community events going on, which
Yes.
I think is super cool. I love the whole community aspect of Combo Breaker. But and the cool thing about this game is because it's a mod, it's still in active development. And like maybe one of the long-term plans is to make the characters more unique, like they were saying, but they specifically said they're not doing any major changes until after Combo Breaker because they want people to be able to practice. So I think you sent me an update to this game, and the only thing they changed was they added more costumes to it.
Right.
Uh, but maybe a year down the line, 2 years down the line, they'll add some of those changes to make the characters more unique. Those super animations slightly different, like you were talking about. So who knows? Maybe eventually it'll be the perfect game for you.
It already feels like a really fun game. I don't know how much fun I would have playing it during a top 8, but
Mhm.
playing it as a friendly game or doing some friendly best of fives, it's really fun. It's cool to try to figure out what your opponent is doing and then countermeasures, figuring out how to punish them when they're trying to get up. And do you get up by rolling? Do you get up
Mhm.
by doing a sweeping kick as you're waking up? It's cool to figure
Yeah.
out how to do all of those and make your openings count, because that is a big deal. It's like in Melee, if you get an open up, if you start a combo, you need to be able to show the opponent, I can take this hit to the distance, so that
Yeah.
way in neutral they respect you more, they tread around more carefully, which then allows you to be more aggressive. So
Mhm.
I can feel those pushes and pulls, which this is just not in every game or in
Mhm.
every genre. I don't want to talk smack on certain genres, but it's just so much fun to have
Call them
active.
out. I'm here to
Oh
make enemies.
my
I'll
gosh.
at them. I'll tag them on Twitter. Call them out by name. There's someone you don't like. This is the podcast for making
I
beef.
hate
Call them
I
out.
hate the Mr. Caffeine guy, but other than that, I mean, I just don't like games where you have to take turns. Essentially,
Mhm.
board games, IRL, or Magic, or in the gaming world. I guess Pokemon would be one example, but I don't even know. I haven't played a single new Pokemon game past the year 2000. The last one I played was Pokemon Stadium 2 on the N64.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's been a while, but there's just certain games where you don't, or in single player mode, where you don't
Mhm.
get active feedback from the person that you're playing against. And I don't know, I don't think of myself as dancing with the other person so much as like playing this really fast-paced game of chess. I always love those games
Okay.
where you're playing a fast-paced version of chess where there are more than just one or two things happening. It's dozens of different things happening. And to use Naruto as an example, because the people who are listening to this are hopefully also watching our match and
Mhm.
seeing that there are different ways to approach. There are different ways to react to your opponent when you realize, oh, they have low chakra. I can just go in right now, especially if I can make it count. But the other person who has low chakra knows this and says, oh, I can force them to whiff and then I punish by hitting them right after that, and I can get my chakra back. That is a specific scenario, and you multiply that times all the other scenarios.
Mhm.
That what feels to me is the most engaging
Yeah. Very
gaming
much so.
experience, when there's almost too many things happening, because the more you get into it and the more you understand, it feels like driving a car, because driving a car
Mhm.
is you're not just moving forward, turn, get to place. You have to be aware of the other drivers. You have to be aware of
Mhm.
traffic signs. You have to be aware of how the road works, because there's certain intersections, and we're both near Philly. We understand driving
Yeah.
around Philadelphia, some of these intersections, dude. So there are
Oh.
there are so many different things happening while driving. That's why I find driving to be really fun to do, even though
Mhm.
it's kind of like, ugh, I'm going to work, but I still have fun in a certain way because it feels engaging. So that'd be how I would try to describe it to other people listening.
You mentioned it. You like games that are like fast-paced chess. I forget the name of it, but have you seen the new chess fighting game that's coming out?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
Shout us out to Wisely who posted this onto Twitter or retweeted the original tweet and going, yet another game for me to get into. And Wisely, for those who don't know, is our royalty of getting into other platform fighters
Mhm.
and into these games that are just mixing genres like chess and fighting
Yeah.
games. So when I saw that from Wisely, I'm going, okay, Wisely, we got to get you on commentary for that too,
Yeah.
because no one commentates more games than Wisely does.
No, I remember one time they tweeted out like the resume of games that they've done, like commentary for it, and they made like a graphic for it, and I'm kind of like, "Th- you've done commentary for like more games than like I've played it, like not just like in my competitive career, but like in my lifespan. You have a tier list of 30 games that you've done top eights for? Come on."
No one's more versatile than Mr. Wisely.
Yeah. So that was very fun. I'm excited for that game to come out. And being as how this is on an emulator, it's for the GameCube. We're playing it on the computers on Dolphin. I don't know if you came across this problem, but this problem came up the very first time the first episode I did, where someone pitched, "Hey, let's do Air Guys, God of the Rings, or like Fighter of the something like that." And I would play for 20 minutes, get bored. I was like, I'd rather play Slippy. And I switch over to Melee because it's all on the same PC. And these are both on Dolphin. So I would get maybe 20, 30 minutes into practice and then be like, I'd rather play Melee. So I would swap over. And in a segment, I'm still trying to come up with a name for maybe Pass and Smash. I don't know yet. But did you have the same issue? Like, argument's sake, you're going to someone's house for a party and you can bring Melee or Scon 4. What are you bringing?
Both.
Both. It's just breaking the
That's
system.
the thing, isn't it? Because with Nintendo on the Wii, once you get homebrew,
Mhm. You could just load it all on that same
you
SD
just
card.
put it on the same SD card. So when I went to, I was at an event during my Naruto training arc for this, and I brought both. You
Did
know,
you?
played Melee for the majority of the time, and then after the tournament was over, after crew battles was over, I was like, "Does anybody want to play Naruto with me?" Someone's like, "What? What? They made a Naruto fighting game?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"This is like Melee, but even deeper underground." So got them playing, and then we did doubles with it. It was me
Oh,
and
that's cool.
yeah. Playing doubles is interesting because you can target switch. So sometimes it's
Oh.
just two 1v1s happening at the same time, but you can also switch with two people trying to go in on one person.
Mhm.
And even though your teammate is still there, they're going, "Wait, what's going on? Why are you you're switching away from me and you're attacking my team? What?" So it's super fun to do doubles, and the camera makes
Mhm.
it so infuriating
Oh, I
because
can imagine.
you know how the angling of the camera changes your stick inputs. So
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
think you're blocking, but as soon as the camera flips around because someone gets launched or whatever, it's a big stage. That then then you realize, oh, I'm not blocking anymore. No, I'm getting opened up. No, and it's just super. It feels like playing 2v2 in Melee just because of how it gets a little chaotic.
Yeah.
And then you finally get down to the 2v1. That's impossible. That's harder. That's harder in Naruto than it is in Melee to
Is
win a
it?
2v1 because you can't like deal with two people attacking you at once. It's almost
Yeah.
impossible to win a 2v1 there. At least in Melee you can kind of like dodge around as certain characters. I'm not saying everybody has the ability to do this,
Mhm.
but Peach can float around, Fox can run
Yeah.
around, Falco could just spam lasers. Like, oh, please let me just get lucky and win this 2v1. But in Naruto, I feel like I just move so slowly compared to Melee that it's tough to dodge
Mhm.
around everything. You get hit and then you're just kind of screwed over because there's no team damage. So they could just spam at you and they won't have to worry about hitting each
Hitting
other.
each other. Yeah. In a similar case, but kind of the opposite of what you just said, where you brought this to a Melee tournament, I think last week on Monday, I went to a brewery in South Jersey because they were hosting an ultimate tournament. There's not really that much of a Melee scene in South Jersey. And I'm like, it's the first time I have like off on a Monday. I'm not doing anything. I'll go get a drink. Maybe I can like convince them to run Melee there. And I get mollywopped because I don't play Ultimate. I go 0-2. I do real bad. And everyone's like, "Oh, is this your first tournament?" I'm like, "No, I play Melee. I don't play this game." And then one of the TOs overheard me. He was like, "Oh, are you the Melee player?" I'm like, "Yep, that's me." He was like, "Great, hold on." And then he busted out his GameCube and set up Melee on one of the TVs for me. He was like, "Hey, you want to play?" I was like, "Yes, thank you, Mr. Tio. Set that Melee up." And then I kind of, after going 0-2, I'm just like hanging around with a beer in my hand, and I'm trying to convince people to come over and play Melee with me. But they're all Ultimate players, and they're still all in bracket because I was the first person to get eliminated. I'm like, "No, guys, play this. This is fun. I promise you. Come in and play this." But it was
have
fun.
a minute to talk about our Lord and Savior Mango.
It's funny because someone came over, they play Ultimate. I was like, "Oh, you want to play?" I was like, "No, I don't know anything about Melee. I've never played. The only thing I know about Melee is Mewtwo King, LOL." I was like, "Yep, he's a Melee player. You got it." But it's cool because they brought that for the tournament. But on the first floor, the brewery has their own 64, and they have a Smash 64 cartridge. So next time I go, I might just pay venue to get into like the tournament, and then try and set up a side bracket for Melee and 64 instead.
Just taking two different consoles, two different mods, because Smash Remix is really, really fun to play.
Oh, it's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I only have one thing left in my notes. But is there anything you want to talk about more of a game? Is there anything more you want to talk about this game? Anything you wanted to bring up about Super Clash of Ninjas 4?
No, I don't think so. We got to cover a lot about the game. We gave the community a shout out. I do really appreciate devs continually developing, because Smash Remix or Team of Kenya, all these people, they got to get their start from somewhere. And with modding a game, you're dealing with code that has been put out and very rigid in a certain way, and you don't get the master source coding and that kind of thing for these games. So how do you manipulate it to do what you want? And Project M is the most famous version of a modded game that I think most people would be aware of, even if you're not necessarily a Nintendo person. If you've ever been around gameplay of different games, different mods. I mean, I guess Gary's mod would be something else that a lot of people would recognize. All that to say, developers who continually work at this, it might be a slow start, or maybe they're only able to do certain things at the beginning. But when you give them a few years, and if they continue to have the passion and drive to figure out, oh, now we can do this, that's just how it all starts. And Melee or Brawl into PM, now with Ultimate doing HDR. I mean, that was a fairly limited mod at first, and they're just starting to open up ever so slightly more and more. I'm really excited to see where HDR will be in a few years, because I don't know that we're going to get another new Smash game because of Sakurai's kind of like, feels like he's kind of moved on, but you know, he tried to move on from every single Smash game since Melee, and every single time someone from Nintendo says, "Oh, let's do a Melee release for the Wii with online play," and that was the original conversation before he started making Brawl. Satoru Iwata, I think, was the one who approached him and said, I know that you don't necessarily want to make another Smash game, but let's port it over. Let's add online." And instead, we got Brawl.
I remember.
And then we got Smash 4, and then we got Ultimate.
I remember with Brawl. I remember reading this that they announced at like E3 or like some convention that there's a new Smash Bros coming out, a sequel to Melee, and Sakurai was like, "What? I didn't know about this." And then like the next week, someone hit him up. It was like, "Hey, this is what we're working on. We want you to run it. We just had to announce it for like." Maybe it wasn't a developers, maybe it was like an investors meeting. They're just like, we just needed something to announce. We did that, but please, we want you to come back for it. But
that's so scummy. Poor Sakurai.
Poor Sakurai. But like you were saying, that it's a mod. You got to start from somewhere. I think it's super cool that not only it's like a community passion project. It's a bunch of people who love this game, that were passionate and interested in about it, and they go, we want to make this better for everyone. And it started off as a small community patch, and then it started off as a small competitive community just of people who love this, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And it's so fun to see people put so much time into these smaller games that you might not know for no other reason besides they just love it. And there's just something fun about seeing someone put that much energy and effort and time into something that's literally just a passion project for them. Like, no one's making money from this. It's a mod for a game that came out in 2004 as a Japanese exclusive for the GameCube. But 20 years later, here we are. They go, I love this. I want other people to love this. I'm trying to make it better and accessible for you. And I think there's just something so pure about that. Just like, even if I haven't played the game, even if I don't like the mod, just there's something about it on principle that I can get behind. I was like, yeah, I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, we obviously understand as Melee players when there's a community that's trying to make a game continually exist in the minds of the gaming sphere. We just they're just like us for real, for real. I definitely feel that kinship to the SCON 4 community. Super happy that I feel like there's not a lot of games that are Japanese exclusive releases that I somehow got to play as a child that when I looked up, oh wait, there is a scene around this that's active and they're modding it. That's crazy. So it feels very fortuitous. It was just meant to be, just 20 years ish separated from one to the other. Super funny that way.
Yeah, that sounds like a very lucky break for you. Just like all of the stars had to align for this one game to end up on your lap one day.
So it's been really fun to play. So shouts out to the people developing the game continually and to the community for keeping it going.
Yeah, shout outs to the devs. I'm going to have a link to their website and their Discord in the show notes. If anybody's interested in playing this, you have to find the game on your own. You can't see me, I'm doing air quotations. You have to find the game, and then they have a patch on their website that you can do, and the Discord's active if you want to like ask for tips or like do net play with them. It's super cool. I'll include all of those in the notes if anybody wants to get into this. Despite being a fan mod of a Japanese exclusive game from 20 years ago, this might be the most accessible game we've had on the show so far, because it's super easy, like 4 clicks and boom, you're online, you're playing this game. So I definitely recommend everybody to check it out. I'm going to thank Jesse for being on the show. I'm going to give you a chance to shout your podcast out again. I know we didn't spend enough time doing that the first half.
Yes. I'll just kind of keep it nice and short and sweet, because if I tell you there's a link tree, and if I tell you put Cypher003 after the link tree thing, then you're going to pull up everything that you need for finding me. So if you want to catch Bottom of the Smash Mountain on your favorite podcasting platform, except for what's that in one place that I hate? Stitcher Premium wanted me to make an account with them before uploading the RSS feed, so I said no. But every other podcast platform, you can find me on there, and you can find me on YouTube doing the podcast for Bottom of the Smash Mountain, and I like to have all kinds of people on. That's it. You just do the link tree. You'll find that. You'll find more than enough episodes of Melee related podcasting for you to listen to. There are over 240 episodes. We're almost at 250.
There's a lot. If you want an entryway, if you're listening to this, you're like, oh, I know Mikey. I like Mikey. I've been on 2 episodes. I'd recommend one more than the other, just because I recorded that with the podcast mic. I recorded the other one with my headset in a truck at 3 a.m., which is super fun. We talked about some Nintendo drama. But if you want to like do a deep dive and like get into like some real like Melee stuff like outside of me, I think all of the interviews you've done with the Melee Stats members are super good. I'm blanking on the name. Is it Nathan Sandwich who is a TO for Genesis?
Nathan Sandwich is one of the TOs for Genesis. Absolutely.
That's a really good one. I know they've been on the show a few times, but I think their most recent one came out a few months ago. I think really good. I really enjoyed that one, and I think that'll be like a cool. If you know nothing about Melee, you can hear him talk about Melee, and then hear him talk about like one of the biggest, most important events like in competitive Melee history, and get like a little bit of a entry point, not just into the podcast, but into like the competitive scene for Melee that we've talked about. I know this is a Naruto episode, but I feel like we spend half the time talking about Melee. But that's what happens when you get when 2 Melee fans on a podcast together. So if you want to check that out, go listen to the Nathan Sandwich episode. Any of them, the most recent one, the first one, doesn't matter. They're all amazing.
Shout outs to Nathan Sandwich. And Mikey, thank you for having me on for a real gaming episode. We got to expose you to Bluey for the first time in your life. That was really fun, but it's nice to be on O2 Heroes. This is a really fun format. You get to play a new game. You get to have people come on and talk about games that they played in their childhood. And for me, I hadn't played in years and years and years, but getting back into has been really fun, and following along with yet another community that's under the thumb of the developer. And we're just trying to be out here making the game better for ourselves, and ain't nothing wrong with that. But I can't help myself. Why can't I just play Fortnite, dude?
Yeah, why can't you just get into like Counter-Strike or like Call of Duty, some major game? There's a new release every year. You know what you're getting into, but no, you're picking these 20-year-old like obscure games.
I can't help it.
Anyways, Jesse, thank you for being on. Go check out his show. Listeners, if you've made it this far, thank you for checking out our show. If you're already listening to this, I'm sure you know where to find me. But if not, all of the ats and tags and Twitters and all of the links will be down below in the show notes. I would also like to thank this week's group of rotating interns from the Camden County Community College. We have Kurt Reynolds as our intern producer, Mo Montana as our intern engineer, and Chloe Kravitz as our intern editor. And we have more episodes in store. We're going to start cranking these out, maybe like 1 or 2 a month. Definitely no pace to get to 250 episodes anytime soon, but definitely you're going to get more than once every 6 months like we used to.
Hey, you got to keep it real. Sometimes life be busy. I fully understand that myself. It's hard to continually get at it. And owning a house makes you have to do a lot of extra chores. It's ridiculous. So to those of you out there following along with Mikey and all the podcasts that are underneath the Mikey umbrella, please continue to tune in. When you see a new episode, it's a blessing. Tune in. And be sure to say hello in the BDE Network Discord server. Mikey's always happy to talk to y'all there.
It's not super active. It's used almost exclusively for recording. But I guarantee you, if anybody jumps in there and wants to talk about Smash, Melee, any podcast, I'm there. I'm doing nothing else. I will always talk to you. We can become Discord friends. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone involved in this. Thank you so much for listening this far. But we're gonna go ahead and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
See ya.